Alright guys, hey now. Welcome back to Duct Tape and a Butter Knife. On today's adventures, we'll be installing 2 televisions. We're going to need to pull electric up to one of the televisions. I believe it's right below the location they want the TV. So this should be a pretty straightforward install. Something I've done thousands and thousands of times before. So I don't expect any problems, but we never know what we're going to get when you walk into a house. They just moved into this house yesterday, I believe. We've had this appointment set up for a month or a month and a half now. So they don't really know much about the house at all either. So you just never know what you're going to get, honestly. Like Forrest said, life is like a box of chocolates. So hopefully it goes pretty straightforward. It's a Saturday. I don't usually work Saturdays. I feel like I put my time in on Saturdays my whole life. Working Saturdays and Sundays. So I try to keep Saturdays and Sundays for myself or things I want to do. I'll be at this house in about 15 minutes. And if they let me record, I'll record it. So hopefully I will see you guys on site. I'm going to be putting this TV on this wall. And the mount I'm going to use is going to allow it to swing out 90 degrees so they can see it from their hot tub over here. And there's the TV they're going to use, but they also want to be able to see it. They're going to put some furniture down in here as well. So first thing we got to do is get this off the wall. I'm only seeing one screw, so I'm assuming there's one or two behind here. So we gotta find them. So I'm gonna have to take all these hooks off, I think. On. Yeah, they're just glued on with the paint. All right, good guess. Now, cut this edge so it doesn't peel the paint. There we go. All right, pretty painless. Next thing we got to do is get our mount on our TV so that we know where the mount's going to go on the wall. This is just a reference point. I think the bottom of the TV is actually going to be somewhere around here. Because when it's sitting flat, it's fine. He wants it as high as he can. The problem is I don't know if you guys can tell in the video, but the ceiling slopes down. So when the TV is flat here, when it comes out, if it's too high, it'll make contact with the ceiling, won't be able to retract all the way out. Won't expand all the way out. So it's got to go lower so that when it's fully adjusted out, it's going to be sitting around here, and that's a good 4 inches or so drop probably. So first thing we got to do is get everything measured. I'm using this mount. That has an extended arm on it. These things are pretty good. So I'm going to show you guys how long this arm is. I mean, it extends way out. So if you guys can see that, it extends way out. So you'll be able to put the TV like that when it swings out, which is a beautiful thing. Anytime you're putting the arms on a TV, what you have to remember is, see, there's a bit of play here, up and down, yeah? Because the screw is smaller in the hole. So you always want to make sure you're pushing up towards the top of the TV when you tighten these screws down, because what happens is, over time, gravity is going to take its toll, and you don't want to like hulk these things down. You don't want to like really torque these things down because you damage the threads, maybe ruin the mounting for your TV. So you just want these snug. So over time, if you have these pushed down, gravity is going to be pulling down on this television. So you may eventually get it to move just slightly, which will throw your TV off level. It's not that big of a deal on this mount because you can adjust the tilt side to side on it. But just good practice to do that. In case you guys are wondering about the screwdriver, it's a Wiha. Actually, I guess it's pronounced Wiha. It's German. It's speedy. I love this thing. It is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. It's around 240 bucks, I think. Comes with a charger. Comes with 2 of these batteries, rechargeable. And comes with like 8 of these different tips, I think, something like that. But it is, it's rated, I think, for 1,000 volts. Made in Deutschland. I love this thing. All right, just to make sure everything's snug down. All right, so now that's snug down. There's these things here that these actually go over top of the mount, and you tighten these down so that you can't, when you're moving the thing all around, there's no chance of it falling off the mount. So just make sure they're open. Now we're going to take the mount, and just gently place it on top of the TV. Okay, so now we know where our mount's going to sit relative to our TV. I know where the bottom of the TV needs to be. So what I'm going to do is, so the bottom of this TV isn't at a 90. So if I lay this right beside here, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see. If I lay it flat, can you guys see the bubble? It's pinned all the way against the side. So it's not at a 90. So what you want to do is sit at the end and go straight up and level. So now I have about 1/3 of an inch gap, maybe a little over 1/4 of an inch gap between here and here. So now I know that this is going to be the bottom point of my TV. Now this isn't really critical, but if you're putting a sound bar or something like that, you need to know where the bottom is. You can't just measure anywhere willy-nilly on the TV because you have to measure at the lowest point, so it sits tight to your sound bar. So, and I'll just make sure that that is level, and then I'll just measure off the bottom of the mount, and we're at 1 3/4 from the bottom of the mount to the corner of my level. So 1 3/4 is what we need. Now we take that measurement and come up to the wall. We know this is going to be about the bottom of our TV. So we'll just use this and we'll mark up 1 3/4. So now we know the bottom of the mount's sitting here. So we don't need this tape anymore. Get that out of there. So now next step, grab the stud finder. And we're gonna find our studs. Actually, before we do that, let's just measure center. So we're right at 43. All right, so 21 1/2. So we're gonna X that out. All right, so there's center. Now that we have the mark, let's find our studs here. Next step, so we know where the bottom's going to be, we know where our center is, we know where our studs are. So make sure that's on the line, make sure everything's lined up. Press this sucker because it's heavy. Put your level on the top. Mark your hole locations. And you can take this down. All right. So, our locations, our hole locations are going to be a bit compromised because of these screws. So take those drywall screws out. What we're going to do, I always use the Surge Impact. It's got plenty of power for what I need to do, and it's so much quieter than a normal Impact. I love this thing. Now, some of you guys are going to be like, oh, it doesn't have enough power. It's got plenty of power for most of the things you do. So don't believe the hype. Surge is more than enough power. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these drywall screws to start the hole. This one's going to be a problem because my hole here is it's about 1/8 of an inch higher where I need to go. So I'm going to have to send the lag into here, lower my mount over here, get it level, and then send the screw in here. Because if I try to put a lag right there, it's just going to want to draw right into that hole. So I'm going to have to use that for a lag. So that said, I'm going to get a lag, sit it in here, have it ready. Grab my mount, get it lined up where it needs to go. There's my center. I'm just going to send the lag in there, and that'll help me support this. It's a juggling act for sure. Going on? Oh, dead battery, no. This had a lot of charge in it yesterday, but it's been cold. It was in the 30s last night. Okay, so get this level. So now we can use that lag in there as a pivot point. Get this level. Get the screw started. Right there. So now I can just use that to hold that while I run out to the van and get a new battery. All right, I know I just got done saying about how great these things were, and then I couldn't even sync the lag, but that was because of the battery. So this battery isn't fully charged, but close enough. And you can see how easy it just drove that in. Get yourself a Surge. You don't need it's so much less loud, which clients really appreciate when you're in their house. So get another 2 more of these, sit them up there, get this guy. Let's take this screw out. We'll save that. Put it in my pocket for now. So we're gonna sink this guy in here. All right. We're definitely on a stud. That's level. There we go. Nice and level in the stud. Perfect. Beautiful. All right, so now we are going, I can find my screw. All right. So our stud should be right here. I just put these in sometimes, and it just provides a path because the lag's gonna follow the path of least resistance, and it's a lot easier to control the movement of a little drywall screw than it is a lag. So, I mean, you can pre-drill with a drill if you want and a bit, but I just grab a drywall screw. Works just as good. Nice and tight. Actually, I want to loosen these so I can shift it just a bit. Just a bit to the right. All right, so let me sink this guy and get us started. Loosen the top. And then just shimmy this whole thing over as far as it'll go, okay? Now, I'll just tighten these back down, making sure it is level. There we go. So now, I'm not a little guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll be able to hang on that and it ain't gonna fall. And this also has tilt this way, and it does go side to side. If you loosen these screws here, you can adjust the horizontal. But I'll leave this a little bit of tilt, snug this down. Okay, that's pretty much the install for the TV. Now, what we need to do is get power up here. To do that, so I don't know if you guys saw that, but I'm gonna put the power just above this. And we're gonna draw power from the kitchen. Okay. Nice tight little metal box. All right. Let's go find a breaker. Use our handy dandy Klein tester. Actually, let's see. Anything is listed. Maybe one of those right there. Yeah, I think that's it. It's listed counter outlet. So let's try that. And that's it. No more lights. I want to push this stick up the wall just to make sure I can get up the wall before I cut a hole. Perfect. Put this back in my bag. Oh, losing my drill. Okay. Forgot where I normally keep that. That's where it is. So this is the Vito Pro Pack, Tech Pack. Great bag. If you have a couple $100 extra, burning a hole in your pocket. All right. So now I know I can go up this wall. What I'm gonna do is measure off of here to get about where that receptacle is. So I think it's in this stud bay here, but I want to make sure it's not in this stud bay. So just get a quick measurement. Off of the door. And roughly 22, okay. So roughly 22 from about here. Yeah, puts it right around here. Perfect. So now, get my old work box. Let's put that in the center right here. Okay. I always grab a level, just because. Just try to make everything level, just looks better. If you just slop stuff up on the walls. All right, so now we need to cut that out. So this is the drywall saw I use, just the Milwaukee retractable one, just because it's retractable. Oh my God, that's tough. Okay, I'm not gonna fight that. Work smarter, not harder. All right, so this drywall is tough. Might be even double drywalled, so I'm just gonna. Yeah. This is originally outside of the house, so. All right, now let's find our stick. There it is. Alright, so I just got my Romex. It's gonna roughly, it's about 1 foot, 2 feet. So, almost cut about 4 feet of it. That's way more than enough. I feel like it's gonna be easier to go from this end down to get into that box. So, I'm gonna try to push this in some. Just to get into that metal box a bit easier. So, let's start the tape here. Work our way down. So we're just about the end. Push that flush with it. Make sure you get that nice and tight there. A couple wraps up higher. Bring it back down again. Go over that joint again. Then I always just pull out a little extra, about a 1/2 inch or so, just so I can fold it over. Just to give me a little tail, so it's easier to find the end and unwrap it. All right, let's push this down. All right. So we got that started in there. Now, if this was just a hole on the other side, you could just pull it straight through easy. But nice and easy. All right. Easy peasy. So then you just take your old work box. Push this in a bit. You don't want it too far because you want to be able, you want it to still grab onto your wire. Okay. Push that in the hole. Tighten down the little flappers. Neither of them tighten. What is going on with that? Oh, the wall's so thick. Gotta back them out first. Okay. Because it's double layer. So to get that double layer, hopefully that's far back enough. No. Man, might need to get longer screws. Just barely on. Get the rotten cotton out of the way. It's insulation. For those of you that don't know, spin this nice and easy. Yeah. Okay, that's got it. Easy peasy, right? So now let's cut some of this excess off. Get a few inches out of the box. Get our knife. Get about a 1/2 inch in the box before we start cutting. Always be careful when you're doing this. You just need to score. I'm not cutting all the way through until I get to the tip. Just scoring the wire. And then it just pulls right off. Pull that back, cut it off. Nice strippers, and 14 gauge. Most receptacles you use will have a strip gauge on them, but I know how far I need to go. For whatever reason, I always just put them in the top ones. So I just close off, just snug down the bottom ones. Neutral goes on the left side. Your hot goes on the right. Crank that down. Get those pushed in. Okay. I'm going to put the cover on. So these screwdrivers I use are also Vera. The 5.5 millimeter flat tip fits all these plates perfect. And I also carry a 6.5 mil for the bigger stuff. So if you guys haven't seen my bag, this is all the stuff that I carry in it. This thing holds a lot more than you think it would, and my tape measure clip's on here. But this is a Vito MP2X. You can put this in your pocket if you want, but I always just use the belt hook. This is pretty much every tool I use 95% of the time, other than drivers, things like that. Great bag. So this is the perfect situation for this guy. Yeah, these are also made by Ware, I believe. Put a link to it in my description. Beautiful. Okay. All right, so the electric's all hooked up on the other side. Moment of truth. All right, we got power and good ground. Good to go. Now all we gotta do is hang the TV and plug it in. So I gotta get a cord for this and clean up my mess, and I'll be right back. All right, let's clean up this dust. Put that like that. Grab the TV. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just order an LG or something. Yeah, tucked away in some box somewhere.
Mm-hmm. In the kids' room with their toys or something. That you're like, how the hell did this get in here?